Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. Hope everybody's having a good day today. This is going to be a video about record fair. Last Saturday, Brian from Shamrock and Records and I went to this small record fair here in Portland, Maine. Small meaning there were maybe 15 tables, 20 tables tops. But we found some good stuff. I know Brian found really good stuff. He hasn't done a video on it yet. I've urged him to, but he hasn't done it yet, so maybe this will spur him to make his video. We spent some time digging for records at the fair, then we went out to lunch, and then we went to a couple of stores after lunch digging some more records. I sort of put everything together in one pile, so I didn't separate them on booths or price, but I got some good stuff. I think I did well. Here, there's a couple of records we picked up. So, first one I picked up, I saw this, I just had to jump on it. Again, I haven't cleaned any of these yet, so I haven't listened to them, but I'm not worried about them. They all looked pretty clean to me. First one I picked up was a John Lee Hooker album. This is called Sitting Here Thinking. I love in the back, it says John Lee Hooker, vocal and guitar. Second guitar, bass, and drums, unknown, which I love. So it was always recorded at a time where they didn't really take a lot of time and effort to figure out who was there. They sort of had some musicians and everybody dug in. It's on Muse Records. Nice label, Muse Records. And basic stuff by John Lee Hooker. Mean Mistreatin', How Long, CC Rider, Sad and Lonesome. Love me some John Lee Hooker. I'm happy to get that. Speaking of John Lee Hooker, the other album I was looking for, and Brian found it for me across the room. He's yelling, John, look, I got it for you. So I looked over and he had found Hooker in Heat with John Lee Hooker and Canned Heat. I've been looking for this for a while. Nice original, $8. So it's like a no-brainer. Had to get that. Been looking for it for a while. Not perfect, but looks pretty good. Should clean up nicely. While we're doing the blues, here's another guy. I had this record many years ago and been looking to add it back into my collection. There's a guy who I saw, God, not 60, 55, 50 years ago. I was like 16. John Lee Hooker. I'm not sorry. John Hammond Jr. I actually saw him again about 2 years ago at the North Atlantic Blues Festival here in Maine, and got some water damage up on top, but a great album called Source Point with John Hammond. Hoodoo Blues on here, Mellow Down Easy, Tell Mama, Junko Partner. As the years go by, it's just a great album. So I'm real happy to add this back to my collection. John Hammond Jr. and Source Point. Another one I've been looking for on and off. Again, this is an album I had back in the day as an artist I saw numerous times in Greenwich Village in the 60s. And it's Phil Ochs. And this is his first album. All the News is Fit to Sing. With great songs. One More Parade, The Power and the Glory. Talking Cuban Crisis, Bound for Glory. What's That I Hear? And second guitar is Danny Caleb, who ended up playing in the Blues Project. So really happy to get this. Not an original, it's a reissue from I think the late 70s, early 80s. But great to have it back in the collection. Phil Ochs, All the News is Fit to Sing. Another folk album was another folkie who I saw back in the Village back in the day. Is a man named Patrick Sky. Pat Sky, singer-songwriter, also really great stuff, but he sort of slipped from the scene, and I read recently he's been making instruments, Celtic, some sort of Celtic harp type instruments. That's been spending his time doing now, but also a great album, and another picture on the back with Mississippi John Hurt and what's her name? Lucy Brown. Anyway, great album. Pat Sky, A Harvest of Gentle Clang. It's got to be like 65, 66 this first came out. And nice mono reissue. I'm mono copy, so I'm real happy with that. Well, I got a bunch of these albums for $2, so I couldn't say no. This is one. This is recorded at Newport Folk Festival in 1963. It's called Old Time Music at Newport, and it features Doc Watson, Clarence Tom Ashley, Maybelle Carter, the original Mother Maybelle, Doc Boggs, all those kind of people. So back in the day at Newport, when they had the original festival, you'd go in during the day, you'd pay, I think it was $2.50 to get in, and they had a huge open field, and they had little stages set up around the field. And you just walk around, and there'd be like a old-time music stage, there'd be a topical song stage, there'd be a bluegrass stage, there'd be a blues stage. So you just walk all day long, going from stage to stage, sitting on the grass and listening to music for for an hour or two, and then go to the next stage. And was there a number of times doing that. And so this is obviously from the old-time music. And even in '63, there's old times. That's pretty cool. Also at the fair, I saw this and I jumped right on it. I have none of his records by himself. This is Gene Clark, and this is Better Days. Mid-'80s, so I haven't heard it yet. I don't know if it's sort of screwed up with that '80s stuff, but it is produced by Rodney Crowell, so that gives me hope that it's a good one. Gene Clark, formerly of the Byrds, etc. Better Days. And this one I grabbed. This I got at the record store after lunch. It's a record I had, again, when I was a kid in high school. Used to listen to it all the time. And been sort of looking for not, searching heavily, but if I saw it, I knew I would pick it up. So I was glad to grab it. And it's The Shadows of Night, doing Gloria, the Van Morrison song Gloria. Back in the day, this was the version I knew before Van Morrison, even though he had recorded it first, really hadn't been put out a lot. And this was the hit version, Shadows of Night, Gloria. This one I knew nothing about, except Brian said I had to get it because the price was right. As I'll let you know, I haven't cleaned and listened to it yet, but it's the Frankie Miller Band, The Rock. It's a promo copy on Chrysalis Records. So again, I don't know much about it, but it has the Memphis Horns on it and the Edwin Hawkins Singers. So that gives me hope that it's going to be good. And I've heard good things about him, but I don't know much about him. But the Frankie Miller Band. So looking forward to digging into that. Here's an album by one of my favorite bands of all time and sort of missing from my collection. So I'm really happy to add it on. And it's The Band. And this is Moondog Matinee. And has all the original members from Rick Danko, Levon Helm, Garth, Richard, and Robbie Robertson. I don't know if this is their last album or close to the last album, but real happy to add that to my collection. The Band. And another one that I don't know this particular album, but I know this group really well. So I'm glad to add this to. This is a Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And this is Ricochet. And I figure any album that leads off with the Teddy Bear's Picnic can't be all bad. Happy Fat Annie, Coney Island Washboard, Put a Bar in My Car. I don't know. We'll see. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Love the Dirt Band. And this was sealed. This cost me $9, I remember, because it was sealed. It was $18, and then he was having a half-price sale to get rid of stuff. And it's Steve Earle and the Dukes, and this is Terraplane. I listened to it the other day because it was sealed. I was able to open it up and give it a spin. What a great album. Closest to a blues album that he's ever done. It's 180-gram vinyl, audio mastered for vinyl, premium audiophile, limited edition, blah, 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 free digital down card. What a great record, man. I just love this album. There's actually one or two songs in here, like as I was listening to, I was going, I could hear Dave Van Ronk singing these songs. That's how bluesy and folky it is. It's just great. So, if you don't know this particular one by Steve Earle, highly recommended. Great album. The rest of the album's got a couple of jazz albums I picked up too while I was there. As you all know, I'm a little bit of a jazz hound. And this is called Jazz West Coast Volume 3. And the reason I picked this up is basically because there's a Chet Baker song on here. There's Art Pepper, Jerry Mulligan, Chico Hamilton. So, again, waiting to get this cleaned up. I got so many records to clean before I can listen to them. This is just going in the pile, and we'll have to wait its turn. Another jazz album, one of the greats, Clifford Brown, Brownie's Eyes. This one, I'm not really sure when it was recorded. It says 74, but I think it might be earlier than that. On Applause Records. So, Clifford Brown, love Clifford. And the last one, this one was also sealed. This one was $2. I couldn't let this go. And it's the great Bud Powell, piano player. And this is The Invisible Cage. Yeah, recorded 1964 in Paris. I guess he died in 65 or 66, so the end of his life. Very sad story about his life. Was beaten by police, private police one time at a train yard, and had brain damage from that. Was in and out of mental hospitals the rest of his life. Had suffered from electric shock therapy at the mental hospitals back in the 50s. Drugs and alcohol, and finally died fairly young. But great piano player. Thelonious Monk was his mentor, and he has that sort of Monk feel to it. Wonderful piano. Even this is not his best stuff. By this time, he really wasn't who he was when he was younger, but still, great piano player. Great session from Paris 1964, Bud Powell. So that's what I picked up. It was a great day. Had a lot of fun digging and picking records. Hope everybody getting a chance to get out there and dig around and get some more records for themselves. And until next time, peace.